What is going on, Misfits? Good to see you. We're back with another edition of Logician Tim Learns, where you get to watch me go from a total gaming newbie to a more informed gaming newbie. Yeah, we'll go with that. What is up, guys? Good to see you. What is up, Joe and Angela, if you're watching? Hello. Scott, what is up? Scooty, good to see you, my dude. Yes, we're back. Hey, we're going to be going over some more of this Degenesis RPG. And I got to tell you, man, it's pretty nutty. It's one of the darkest and biggest worlds that I think I've ever gone through. It is absolutely insane. The writing is, it's almost poetic. And so when you're reading some of these, reading all of it, it's actually almost written in a poetic type style. And it's a little bit difficult to kind of take what they're saying and translate it to you guys. But that's what I did. I put in the work, like 130 pages of almost like poetry, kind of like deep literature or something, and translating that into words that we would all use and understand. And so that's what I did for you guys. And it's pretty neat. So I want to jump over to this. And tonight we're learning about the 7 cultures that are in Degenesis. There's 7 different cultures. And I want to kind of just talk about what they tell us about them in the book. And it's really, really neat. And I think you need to learn about it. It kind of gives a good example of the world and kind of the different places that you might be able to visit and the things that might be going on. So when you're playing the game, there's going to be insane amounts to do. Scott asked me today about, what I thought about the world. And I said, man, it's huge. I feel like if you were just kind of were walking around and didn't really get into any quest or anything like that, you couldn't even visit all the places and get a handle on what was going on there. Just in this, if that's all you did, you couldn't visit them all and find out what's going on there. It's way too much. So I think it's awesome because it lends itself to just almost an infinite amount of playtime in this world, and it's absolutely incredible. So I'm gonna flip open the book here. We're gonna be talking about those cultures tonight. Let me find the page here. Page is it? 53 tempo. All right. Cultures. That's where we're at. So you can see on the pages there is a little bit of glare on some of these black pages, especially. There's a decent amount of glare on them. So not quite as bad as The Witcher, but there still are. And so the black pages for me are a little bit harder to read than the white pages, which I don't have any problem with the white pages whatsoever. But you can see here the art is absolutely amazing. Let me flip to it in my PDF too, and I can show you what it looks like here too. PDF, la la la. So yeah, you can see the art here. Absolutely amazing. They did great work. Where was it? There we go. That was the beginning of the culture. The beginning of it. Is the world inspiring? Absolutely. Scott, when I'm reading it, I'm sitting there thinking about all the different plot hooks and things that are going on, and there's all these kind of factions that are warring with each other, and these outside threats from these crazy beings, these Homo Degenesis beings. And so there's all types of stuff going on. But even if you ignored all that, you would still have an incredible land just to goof off in. Even if you didn't take them up on any of the, get involved in any of the wars or factions or anything like that, you would still have tons and tons of stuff to do. And it just makes my brain just kind of wind up and kind of wonder what would happen, So yeah, one of the very first cultures that they go over is called the Borca. The Borca, B-O-R-C-A. And I like because my book has it right here. You can actually see it. And they call them the legacy of the ancients. What is up, Matt? What's up, my dude? Scott says, for me, that is what I'm buying, inspiration for adventure. Yes, and that's exactly what this book gives you. Like I said, when you're reading it, it's very almost poetic in nature, the words are. And it's very thick, and you almost have to kind of decode some of it. But it's absolutely gorgeous to read, and it kind of gets those creative juices going. And definitely for those higher intelligence people that need something really meaty to chew on. So, Matt, this is Degenesis, dude. This is Degenesis. It is awesome. So let's talk about one of the 7 cultures in the game Degenesis, okay? This one is called the Borca. And if we flip to, and actually I can do this on my PDF, you can see a little bit better here, I think. Here you go. It's going to be sideways, but you're going to have to deal with it. So you can see up here in this region here, this is Borka, okay? And so they're up north. So if you turn this thing sideways, yeah, but that's the way it came up. That's where Borka is, and it's really split in half with this giant chasm called the Reaper's Blow, okay? The east and west parts of Borka are very, very different from one another, okay? Let me switch this back. Yeah, this game is awesome, man. What it is. Oh, what it is, he said. What it is, not what is this. Duh. What it is. What it is. All right, gotcha. Sorry, man. All right. All right, so West Borka, let me kind of explain what that is just real quick. In the north, the snow falls almost year-round in West Borka. In the summer, the glaciers kind of melt just a little bit, and the rivers kind of flood with fresh water, but the soil is so salty that really nothing will grow there. So it's more barren, right? In the south, some of the areas are kind of, some of the barren areas are broken up a little bit by kind of like this thin cotton grass and meadows of moss, kind of along with an occasional birch tree, but really not much around as far as like forest or anything like that. It tells us that red dust kind of fills the air because these winds just kind of bust through the plains and sweep up all this dust. So everything is just really, really dusty. So it tells us that only those that wear goggles or mask or some type of like, dust scarf can really survive there just because the dust is so thick all the time. And yeah, I just want to oogle the hell out of the art in this book. Yeah, dude, it's incredible. Just incredible. So yeah, only people that wear masks and goggles, stuff like that, can really survive around here. And in the West, wood is actually very, very rare, but metal is everywhere. The streets in the cities are, lined with scrap metal just across, like as the street itself is like kind of scrap metal. And it says that like the squeaking of rust underfoot can be heard when you walk. It's kind of everywhere. You got that, imagine that tin roof kind of sound like when you're walking down the street. The walls and barricades, everything is made of metal and scrap metal, as it's a really easy, accessible resource. And I'm going to tell you why in just a minute. As you travel, as you start going south, and as you travel, you're going to start to see tips of these unearthed monoliths kind of peeking up out of the ground. And the further south you go, the more and more of these monoliths have been dug out. So these monoliths, start getting taller as you start going south because they're dug out more. And what this is, these are the work of the people called the Scrappers. That's kind of like their nickname, the Scrappers. And they live here. And these people are obsessed with digging through the earth and finding things that may be of some value of, days gone, right? And bygone days is what they call it, bygone days. And so of the earth before the cataclysm, then there's all these goodies buried in the earth. And these people, these Scrappers, they go out and find this stuff. And so that's why there's metal everywhere, because they're constantly digging and they're constantly finding all this scrap metal, and they bring it into the city. So whatever they find, they take to the city and they give it to these people called the chroniclers. Chroniclers. Does that sound right? Yeah, like people like chronicle. Chroniclers. It's a funny word. Anyways, they take it to the chroniclers, and if they deem it worthy, then they'll offer them some cash for it, and they'll take it, and then they'll sell it for a profit, right? Because there still is technology, and there's new technologies being invented, and there's vehicles and all types of stuff, and some type of it's not like there might be some computers and some types of weird stuff going on too. So it's not like you're living in the Stone Ages anymore, just because it's after Cataclysm, because it's been like a long time. So these scrappers are scrounging up stuff and digging up stuff from the earth constantly and selling it off to these chroniclers. Now in Borka, you're going to find this large city, and it's called Justitian. It's almost like Justice meets Logician. I don't know. Justitian is what it's called. And it's called Justitian the Righteous. And this city is the source of law and order. And it's ruled by these people called the judges with an iron fist, right? They're really, really strict. So anyone that breaks a law, which is called the codex in this area, Anybody that breaks the laws of the Codex is going to be either exiled or killed. They're dealt with very, very quickly. Okay. And they all have all types of rules on, like, when grain is sold, they have to be inspected so that there might, make sure there's none of these killer spores and stuff like that in them. There's a bunch of laws, some of them for good reasons, some of them not so much. So yeah, I mean, you got to follow laws in Justitian, or the judges are going to get you. So in this city, though, in Justitian the Righteous, you're going to find what's known as the manufacturers, and they kind of reside in the text central of Justitian. I'll get it out, and they're really known kind of far and wide because of their legendary mechanical wonders that they kind of get up and make out of this scrap that the scrappers find. And they produce like very complex, high quality locks and, crazy traps and these very modern and weird weapons and stuff. So people will kind of seek them out, these manufacturers. And so it's kind of cool. So the Justitian, the city flourished, and the Codex, the law, as a body of laws, it kind of spread. It started to spread. And they sent judges out to kind of the surrounding towns, and it kind of sounded like a mob thing where they offered their protection, right? Protection, and they demanded submission in return, right? Of course, just like a mob boss, right? And so many cities around joined because they had no choice, right? What are you going to do? You're going to tell them no, or they're just going to smash you and take your stuff anyway. So yeah, they joined. And so these new cities now make up what is known as the Protectorate. And it continues to spread like kind of community after community. And of course, the people who live there in these cities, and they're now under the control of the Protectorate, they're kind of holding their own, secret grudges against the judges and Justitian, right? And their clans they gather together and they attack whenever they can. They're trying to kind of get their cities back. And their brutality, because I'll spare you some of the details, but they use like horrific brutality that even shocks the judges. And it builds and builds and really makes an impact on the Protectorate as city after city falls. And they're gaining city after city, and just kind of like in this guerrilla type warfare. And slowly it's taken back by these clans. But the thing is, they don't just want their cities back anymore. No, they're pissed, right? They want Justitian. They want to take over Justitian. And so war is coming to this once very safe city. It is coming. And so that's kind of the deal. That's what's going on in West Borca, and it's really nuts. Lots of craziness going on here. Let me show you this this cool piece of art they got here for us. I'll get it. There we go. View. I need to find a shortcut for this because this should be fast for me. Here we go. So you can see the artwork in Justitian. It looks amazing. There's like kind of a wasteland around it, and it looks like they would be pretty well guarded, and they are, except for when members of their own clans and members of their own people kind of came in and wanted the cities back, and now they want to take Justitian as well. So you can see again the art here is absolutely amazing. Let me go back. Now, where were we at? All right, so that's what's going on in West Borca. Now let's talk a little bit about East Borca. Where's my page? Page 60. Let's get over here. Get over here. All right, so in East Borca, of course, the chroniclers, the people that buy the stuff from the scrappers, they tried to establish themselves here in the East, just like they did with the West, but it just never took hold. So, so the people here have actually returned to a more kind of a primordial lifestyle. They kind of follow the musk herds around and retreated to like the pine woods in very small communities. And whereas in the West, metal was everywhere and wood was very scarce, well, here in the East, it's the opposite. It's flip-flopped. Wood is everywhere and metal is very scarce. And the reason why is because the trees, there's trees everywhere. It makes it very difficult for digging. I mean, there's roots everywhere. These trees, are very tight, big forest. Very hard to dig in it versus in the West where it's all, mostly like kind of desert and plains, right? And so the scrappers just gave up on it. They're like, screw this, I'm not digging here, I'm out. I'll go back to the West. I can make more money there. Screw that. And so that's why it didn't kind of take hold. So the large city, though, in the east is called Osman. Okay, and this is kind of like the Justitian is to the west. Osman is to the east, and the clans here are very strong. And they tells us that they eat very well behind the protective walls of this great city. And where was that? I'll just lose my place, right? Yeah, they eat well behind the walls of this great city, and there's like these large markets, kind of open markets, people selling and trading stuff. There's hot baths, which apparently are rare, and there's like a awesome, great underground library here. So of the bygone era, I always forget it. It's called the bygone era, the time before the cataclysm and the end of the world, the apocalypse, and so they have built this great library down here. So there's awesome stuff to do. And they said it's a haven in a burning world. So it's just kind of a nice place where you can actually go and feel safe and feel relaxed, which is a rarity in this world. I'm on board. Yes. It's awesome, dude. I'm telling you, Joe, it is awesome. So here's what's going on in Osman. All right. So recently a city to the south of Osman, it's called Praha. I guess that's how I'm going to say it. Praha. These people are known as the archaeologists, and they were the people said to have built this library or provided the information, the books for this library in Osman. Now, I say they're known as archaeologists because the stories are that no stranger was allowed in the city and no one was really allowed out. So it was kind of a secret city. They kept to themselves, but it was attacked, and it was attacked in the night by something called the Corroded, which is this, real giant figure guy. I went over it in last stream just a little bit. This giant that was sleeping for a long time. It finally awoke, and the clans that are following this giant, and along with this giant called the Corroded, attacked the city of Praha. They broke down all the bunker halls. They raided all the depots. They destroyed their technology. They just kind of ransacked the whole city and then just kind of moved on. And so they tell us that it seems Praha was not their final destination, and the people in Osman have heard about it, and they're worried that they're next, right? Because if somebody can take Praha, which it was like an awesome fortified city, then no place is really safe. So yeah, that's kind of what's going on in the east over there, and so people are really worried about it, and lots of stuff going on. Now, let me see here. Actually, I wanted to flip back because it seems like there was something else going on in this area, but I didn't have it in my notes. But it just popped in my head, and I want to make sure I don't miss it. Nope, I didn't miss it. Good. All right. So let's move along. Let's move along to Franca. All right. This is the next area here, and I'll show you some of the. Oh, here we go. Some of the artwork here is it's really, really awesome. Just the layout, the design here is so cool in this book. So yeah, this is Franca, and let's talk about Franca just a little bit. What are you saying over here, Matt? This is like my best / worst nightmare. When I pick up a Shadowrun book, no matter how many times I've read it, I always read the "so it came to pass" section. This whole book sounds like that. I'd have to read the whole book a jillion times. Yes, there's a lot of history here, and because when they tell you a story about an area, they tell you sometimes like a little bit before, like what was going on when the apocalypse happened, and then what happened like right afterwards, and some of the wars that went on, and then they finally kind of get to today, and then they kind of leave you hanging with some type of crazy threat happening. I think that looks a little bit better. All right, get that to focus. So yeah, there's a lot of history to be learned here, and it's pretty awesome. And they put a ton of time and effort in this book, and I know that they want you to spend an incredible amount of time studying this world and in the character creation and all those type of sections, you're going to be studying more than, it's not just handed to you. It's not like, hey, pick this up and read it this afternoon and then, we'll start playing. No, this is one that you really have to study because there's so much intricate details and they really put a lot of passion into it. And they kind of expect the same from the reader. So, but yeah, let's talk about Franca real quick. Now, to the west of Borca lies Franca. Okay. And so after the Eschaton happened, the apocalypse, plagues of insects covered Franca, right? They just got inundated with insects. Hordes of flies and cockroaches and termites just filled every crevice, ruining the food supplies, biting at the flesh of the people while they slept. It was horrible, right? And they were really, really in bad shape. Something worth your attention? How refreshing. Yes. This is not handed to you guys. If you want a rewarding book that you have to put the effort in for, yeah, this is it. It's not handed to you. So, so Franca is just plagued by these horrible insects for a long time until one day these strange figures started coming out of the mountains. And most of them were pretty much naked except for like maybe covering their privates just a little bit and maybe wearing some boots, some of them. And they had lumps all over their bodies. They had these like fist-sized sores on their necks where the insects would like go up there and feed and stuff. Really nasty, right? And it says that they moved like drunkards, okay? They were very peaceful and seemed to just kind of creep around the villages, examining and looking at all the horrors the insect plague had brought to the Frankans, okay, the people of Franca. Now, flies landed on them and ants kind of climbed at their legs and formed kind of overlapping circles on them, all over them. It was kind of creepy. But like all of a sudden, like with just a gesture, the strangers chased away the insects. The insects just kind of all walked off, flew off. They just left. And the Frankans were like, what the hell's going on, right? They're very thankful for this because they don't have all these things attacking them anymore. But at the same time, they're very mistrustful of these beings that they are now known as the Pharaohmancers. And Pharaohmancers, like, holy crap, this sounds so badass to me. Now, it says soon the mistrust vanished and this weird feverish love for these Pharaohmancers replaced this mistrust. And it was not just the insects who were attracted to these Pharaohmancers' smells. The people were succumbing to them as well. And they were starting to become slaves to these Pharaohmancers. So their mind just kind of goes away and they do whatever the Pharaohmancers desire, even without speaking. So it's pretty amazing. We'll get to it later, but I'm curious to see if the game itself plays with ease or is as complex as the story. Yeah, I'm excited to see what's going on too. All right, Scott, we'll see you, man. Tell Michelle I said hi. So yeah, the Pharaohmancers are kind of enslaving the people and things around with these pheromones that they're exuding, and people, like, they can command them to do things even without talking. So it's kind of interesting. Timo's going to need a bigger desk behind him for too long. I know, man. I know. I'm going to need like bookshelves back here or something. Now, let me see, where was that? So in Franca, this one place called Souffrance, I guess is how I'm going to say it. All of Souffrance and this other city called Parasite have been taken over by these Pharaohmancers and their insects, right? And so they frequently attacked the humans there. And the humans, all they can do is cover themselves in this stuff called Marduk oil. And it makes them immune to the pheromones, right? So you can, if you cover yourself in this Marduk oil, you can be around those Pharaohmancers and not be smitten by their pheromones. And that's kind of like your only defense against them. And so what they do is the humans start fighting back using this Marduk oil, and they start using pesticides and fire, just kind of taking out these Pharaohmancers and kind of the spore type areas where they live. And so they're winning some battles and they're losing others, right? So it's kind of back and forth. And the human strongholds have brought in like these spiders. And so there's spiders everywhere in the cities of the humans to help fight off the insects that are carrying, these spores and stuff that from the Pheromancers. There's spiders everywhere. That sounds creepy as hell. And now there's also they kind of use these certain routes that were lined with these kind of tarp-like structures that if there's any detection of pheromones or anything like that in the air, then they seal off like super quick and they become airtight in a moment's notice. And this allows people to kind of move more freely through the area and through trade routes and stuff like that. And they have these almost like security checkpoints in them where they have these mollusks. There we go. Mollusks that sniff the air for any sign of like spores or any type of psychonauts or pheromancers, anything like that. They're sniffing the air for this, and if they're kind of triggered, then the guards will like jump out real quick and attack whoever it is with fire quickly to destroy any threat and also the person. So don't have spores on you going through that area. You'll be roasted alive. So the people that live there are really waging a war for really every foot of land that they can from the Pheromancer's grip. They're battling every day against mounting odds. The Pheromancers are going stronger. People are trying to come up with plans to thwart them. And so really it's just a back and forth struggle in Franca. Time to zoom. All right. I'll rewatch later, Tim. Keep on kicking my ass, my good sorry. Later, Matt. Well, good to see you, my dude. All right, let's move along here real quick to the next. Let's see. Do I have any? I forget to flip my book sometimes when I'm talking. Let me flip through here because the art is cool. Page display. There we go. Single page. Because some of the stuff is really cool. So this is in Sceaux, France. The Eiffel Tower's just kind of been taken over. People can't even go there anymore. It's taken over by these like termite hills and stuff. All these bugs and wasps and stuff. It's really nutty. And like I said, the bugs and wasps all carry like the spores that can trigger people too and turn them into crazies as well. But the art in here is absolutely amazing. Let me get to my next section. Now these guys are pretty epic. These are from the pollen culture, okay? And they're called the Eternal Wanderings. These guys, look at the art, man. That's so awesome. So yeah, these guys are from the pollen culture. And they tell us that the people of pollen wander from kind of like oasis to oasis. I mean, much of their area is very, very barren. And so there's these small little outcroppings of these oases that pop up. And these guys just kind of travel from one to another. And they carry all their belongings on sleds. Tells us that they're very, very strong people, very muscular, and they rely on their community and their brute strength. And they defend their oases with stone axes. Okay, that's how badass these guys are. Come at me, bro. I got a stone axe, right? And basically nobody messes with them until while they're at these oases. And once that oasis gets tapped, they've used most of the resources or whatever, they have to move on to someplace else where they can be attacked like in moving, right? Pheromancer is ingenious. Yes, it is, Jesse. It's cool. So the mother spore fields, if you remember talking about the mother spore fields before, the mother spore fields in pollen produce these psychonauts, and that's another name for pretty much anybody that gets that is born near a mother spore field will grow up to be different. Okay, and you have these weird abilities depending on which area that you're born in. It's very strange. So each of these cultures have their own kind of freaks, right? That are born as a result of these mother spore fields, and they're all called psychonauts. Like the Pheromancers are still considered psychonauts, right? Well, the psychonauts in this area in pollen, they grow these bone spurs, like coming out from their arms, like armor, right? Their skulls are malformed, and some have like this real thick chest plate made out of bone. And it says that it's so hard that a broadsword can't even pierce it. Others carry around like scorpions and spiders in their folds, like in their skin a little bit, and that spread this sepsis and spread these spores who come in contact with them. So it kind of infects more and more people. And these psychonauts, they can heal from wounds like incredibly quickly. And it tells us that they can even regrow organs if they were to become damaged. And so they have like insane regeneration powers. And in this area as well, there's primordial monsters that swim in the lakes here. So it's a very dangerous area. There's these weird like fractal forests, like crazy trees that can grow like in hours. And so this whole forest can pop up within hours. And it's like have this like poisonous fruit and stuff like that. It's really, really nuts. So in this area in pollen, the sepsis kind of slowly spreads across the country, all the way to this area called the Balkan. And it creates a barrier of spores and psychonauts, just kind of leaving the humans trapped with no access to Asia whatsoever, even though they're trying to fight hard to break through this wall so that they can have a trade route to Asia. So the humans are fighting back with pesticides and fire, and they leave, as a result, leave much of the area inhospitable without protective suits because they poured so much pesticide into the soil, like it's almost it's dangerous for humans to walk through nowadays. So anyway, that's what's kind of going on in pollen. So they have their own fight that they're going through. Here's one of those fractal trees. Check out this thing. There we go. There's one of these fractal trees that just kind of pop up. Like in minutes, they'll pop up, and kind of nuts. So here's a picture of one of the areas here, one of the craters. And remember, because all this, the cataclysm was kind of the apocalypse that was brought on, Eschaton, as they call it, was brought on by these asteroids hitting the Earth. And so that's why there's craters everywhere and fissures and things like that. So now let's talk about the next section here. It's called the Wildlands, and the name of it is the Balkan. Okay. And we're going to talk a little bit about the Balkan. What's going on here, Timbo? Let me tell you. So the Balkan is like the land of extremes. Okay. In the winter, the snow can pile up, they say, meters deep and like swallow the evergreen trees. That's how deep the snow piles up. Now in the summer, the sun gets so hot, it burns the grass, turning it yellow. If there is any grass around. And it tells us that life for the people that live there offers no rest whatsoever, but the people here kind of seem to enjoy that. Their personality is kind of strange. So the Balkan people here, they said they very much value hospitality. Okay, so hospitality is super important to them, but one wrong word and all bets are off. All right, no matter who it is, they don't care. All bets are off. You said the wrong word, we're scrapping, bro. So it tells us that even the closest friend, or even father and son, who often love each other, one moment will be trying to almost kill each other the next, and this kind of cycle continues with these people. That's just part of their culture. And it tells us that kind of like some of these phrases they use. So I'll put them in here. They say threats unite them. So together they attack the voivodates, the Africans, the Spitalians, and the Psychonauts. But once they win these wars or whatever, the old alliances they had with each other just kind of are discarded like worn jackets, they tell us. And I kind of like that. And here's the phrase that they use. This is awesome. It's almost like a mantra. Me against my brother and I against my uncle, together against the rest of the world. And that is the Balkans' motto pretty much. And so they'll fight each other, but they'll quickly band together to fight everybody else and then go back to fighting each other again. So the lands of the Balkan sounds like my family. Yeah, no doubt, Jesse. Now the lands of the Balkan, they're kind of riddled with these tunnels and with no real maps, these mazes and stuff everywhere. And in these tunnels lay these strangers called the Palers. And because I guess they're real pale, right? They're living underground. And they pray to tricks of the light, and they're waiting for their gods called the Sleepers, whoever these people are, to finally awaken. And they have to eat, right? And so they come out and they steal from the Balkans. They attack their villages very often, and so they're kind of a real threat to the Balkans. But they're not the only threat around, because the Balkans have their own psychonauts, right? And the psychonauts here, they sing these songs. And they creep into the thoughts of humans, and they manipulate their thoughts until there's no such thing as free will, almost like the pheromones. And you become a lost soul and a slave to them. And so, yeah, there's these psychonauts that these Balkans have to deal with, and they're really, really powerful. So they have all this kind of stuff going on in their area as well. And so I'm going to show you a couple of pictures here from the Balkans, just some of the type of stuff that you can be expected to see here. Here's one of their cities, really badass looking. I mean, look at that. It just the art here is just absolutely amazing. You can just sit here and drill over the art for a long period of time. It just never gets old. So I'll let you look at that while I'm flipping. This is a lot of chapters, guys. I'm boiling it down to the basics. Now, I read almost, like 120 pages or something like that today, and it's all pretty thick stuff. And so I tried to boil it down to where I can give you kind of the cliff notes of what's going on with each of these cultures. What is up, Jake? What's up, my dude? So yeah, let's move on to this next one. This next one is called Hybrispania. Okay. Hybrispania. Okay. This is this next area. And this area is called the Killing Fields. And so Hybrispania is a place of constant war. Okay. And it was spurred on, man, my nose is itching. Let me get over this. So this place is called Hybrispania. It's almost like Spain was before. It was spurred on when Spaniards raided the oil fields of Africa by force. So after the cataclysm happened, they were all scrounging for resources. They kind of built this bridge across the Gibraltar to Africa, and they found out they had oil there. So soon the Spaniards raided Africa and started taking the oil, just mowing down the people there, torturing them, and doing all this horrible stuff. And until the Africans finally found out about it and came together as a country and just pushed them back into Spain, drove them back into Spain. And but they really didn't stop there. They didn't just chase them back. They pursued them. And they have these like mighty, like giant surge tanks, the Africans do. And they're the size of houses, like these giant surge tanks. And so these Spaniards would be very easy targets for these, they're called Neo-Libyans from Africa. So the guys that are in the surge tanks are called Neo-Libyans. And so they're chasing these Spaniards, and these Spaniards are going to be very easy pickings for these awesome Neo-Libyans. So they thought, because when they invaded, when they came across, they finally got across, their tracks of these giant tanks began to sink in the mud, and the tree roots started wrapping around their tracks of these tanks and making them immobile. So apparently a deal had been struck. And this is where the psychonauts of this area come in, and they're called the Pregnoctics. Okay. And the Pregnoctics, these are the psychonauts of this area, and they exist in the past and future simultaneously. They tell us that they're one soul in 1,000 bodies. And so they can kind of see the future, the past, and everything kind of all at once. And the people from Spain, they don't trust them, from Hybrispania, they don't trust these psychonauts. They kind of made a deal with them. And so they're kind of living sort of in peace, but not really, because they don't trust each other. And there's kind of stuff, kind of popping up here and there where they're kind of fighting each other in some places. So very interesting area in Hybrispania. So let me see here. Yeah, so look at some of the stuff in Hybrispania. Pretty awesome. Get this up over here. Here we go. Look at the dude's got like a helmet on one of this guy's, like right here, like a helmet on him or something. Looks pretty badass. Yeah, so lots of people fighting in this area. Constant war. Wow, look at this, man. It's just incredible. There we go. All right. So yeah, this is kind of like what one of the cities kind of looks like around here. Here we go. Now let's move on to the next one here. Flip my book. And this is the Purgari, or Purgar. I don't know how you want to pronounce it, but Pragar. I'll start with that. Yeah, incredible art. Yeah, for sure. Now, the Pragar is full of warring neighbor cities, and it seems like everybody in Pragar like moved in like right next door to someone that they hate, right? Everybody is fighting for one reason or another, it seems like, in this area. What's cool though, like, so they go into like all these different factions that are, fighting this person and that person, and they're all basically fighting each other. It's like one big fight, or a bunch of little fights in one big area. But what's cool about this, so there's tons of people fighting each other for tons of different reasons. What's cool about this is these people called the Anabaptists. Okay, Anabaptists. They have some type of oil that they carry around with them, and they give it to people. And once they convince the people to take it, the people, this oil is rubbed onto their skin and in their hair, and the person starts to feel young again and very vibrant. And they feel great. But soon they want more oil, and they will start, kind of craving it, and they will do pretty much anything, including joining the Anabaptist to get it. And so these Anabaptists are growing in numbers almost by slinging drugs. It sounds like, right? By slinging this oil. And so more and more people are becoming Anabaptists, and it just sounded cool here. Now, and the psychonauts in this area in Pragari are called psychokinetics. Okay, they have this psychokinetics. All right, these things are parasites. Okay, they feed on the villages through plagues of insects such as leeches and mosquitoes, ticks, and fleas. And as they feed on these villages around here, this energy starts to build up in their midsections. And it tells us that as they feed, their chests start to glow with this heat, with this energy that's building up in them. Eventually, they release this energy, and it consumes kind of everything around them and burns them from the inside out. And the light bends around them and gets entangled into these like force fields. It sounds really awesome. It says that stones rise up from the air and accelerate in ever tightening circles around them, and finally race towards the enemy in a glittering cloud of rock and stone, smashing the enemies, whoever's around. And so, yeah, the psychokinetic people sound pretty badass, and you definitely don't want to mess with them. Anabaptists are a pre-Protestant Catholic separatist group. Interesting if Degenesis is pulling influence from that fundamentalist sect. I don't know. I've never heard them before. I don't know. I have to look them up, though. I didn't know that. I figured it was something they made up because I'd never heard of them. Let me get a drink here. So, yeah, the psychonauts here, the psychokinetic dudes, sound pretty badass. Not people that you want to mess with. But you can see here some of the pictures in this area. If you look closely, here's like a volcano going on. There's a couple, looks like motorcycles right here, right? So there are vehicles. There's tanks and motorcycles and all types of vehicles that are in this game. And we're going to get to them when we get to that section. I think it's in the other book. So we're going to be talking about that. Some old street signs and stuff. Yeah, check out these guys, man. So there's these ships around. These guys are working on them, building them and turning them into fortresses. So pretty cool stuff. It kind of reminds me of Star Wars, where you had like the people in, what were they called? Jawa guys, whatever, like scrounging stuff and bring them to those giant land ship things. I'm sure somebody's going to like call me out on it because I'm not a Star Wars dork. I like Star Wars. I just don't know everything about it. But that's what it kind of reminds me of in this picture. So yeah, you can see another picture here. All right, now, so that pretty much ties up for the, what is it? What are they called? The psychonaut people, okay? But there still are other areas. And so this last area that we're going to be going over is Africa, okay? And Africa here, if you remember me telling you about it, Africa has been turned into like a jungle, right? Almost like a rainforest. It has like Mediterranean type environment. So the Sahara Desert is not a desert anymore. It's like almost like a rainforest. And so Africa is doing very, very well for themselves. And one of the tribes or the clans here is called the Neo-Libyans. And they really live a very nice life in Africa, mostly filled with comfort. They have like really fine fabrics and plazas full of incredible markets. They have open trade lines all over the place. They have spices and fruits are very, widely available. They have books from the bygone era. I mean, so they're living really nice. It tells us that they're passionate people and they live in this kind of a world of spiritual and mystic principles. Okay, so they carry their ancestors around in their heart, and they kind of believe that they can see their ancestors in stones and in trees sometimes. And they kind of run across these mystical or spiritual type places, and they'll carve these little figurines, little humans, little small human figurines, and they'll offer them. They'll place them down as offerings at these mystical places to their ancestors. And they say that to pay respect to animals and their environment is not a question of moral integrity, but it's of keeping your own inner peace. So it gives them this inner peace. They have this kind of moral thing that's guiding them, right? And so it helps them to keep this inner peace with them, to kind of keep things right with the world. But it's not all roses in Africa, so to speak, okay? Because there are these things called the psychovores, okay? And what these things are, these plant type things. Let me flip over here. There's these plant-like things that are growing up from the ground, unlike anything that's ever been seen on Earth. Their leaves are like pentagonal or octagonal in shape, so they look really weird. They're very thorny, and they're very brittle like glass. Their fruits shimmer, and they're super fragile. And if you're stupid enough to eat one, it contains this poison that equates to a super painful death. So don't be eating this fruit, guys. So even getting scratched by one of these psychovores, well, like if you get scratched on the arm, it's going to cause these blisters to grow on the skin and start to blacken within seconds of getting scratched. The blisters will like get worse and worse and burst and gets black and nasty, and the wound grows and gets bigger until the bone eventually breaks, and your arm just is broken now. You're broken at the bone, and nothing is going to stop this decay. It's going to continue to spread over your body, and nothing's going to stop it, and you're just going to die. That's it. You're dead, dude. So that's just from a scratch. So these plants have really taken over the normal vegetation in a lot of the areas of Africa, and it's spreading super fast. They transform the land, but they also transform the people. So everyone that lives in proximity of the psychovores, they lose their language, and they begin talking in tongues, and so they kind of lose their language a little bit, and so they're changing the landscape and the people. Really nuts. Really bad stuff. So the Africans, they burn the plants, right? And they pour salt in the earth, hoping that they won't grow back. But the plants seem to grow back stronger with like spikes, they say, are like hard as steel. And like it's some type of evolutionary surge, like it's learning and it's adapting. The plants are learning and coming back even stronger. And some of the plants can now spit spikes at humans, and they even will retreat back into the ground, like suck back down into the ground when they feel the heat of fire approaching them. So they're kind of learning and growing through time and learning new defenses, and it sounds pretty badass. So yeah, they're trying things like pesticides, and eventually the plant gets immune to them, so they'll change the formula, and the plant will get immune to that eventually. And so this evolutionary battle is going back and forth between the humans and these plants. And what's crazy is some clans of people are immune to the psychovores. And some people just take off into the fields of psychovores like willingly. And they almost become feral, and they won't talk. And there's like this whole people that live there, but they're not even almost like people anymore. There's African people, and then there's white people in there too that have been there for generations. It sounds like, and if they come out and somebody sees them, they dive right back into the thickets of these psychovores, almost like in protection. So there's something weird going on there that people can't quite understand. And so yeah, the Africans have this type of battle that they're fighting as well. So lots and lots and lots of cool stuff going on in this book, you guys. And like I said, the art is amazing. it's definitely worth the read. Nothing is going to come easy in this RPG. Everything is fought for, including the story, because it's, like I said, it's written in almost this type of poetry that is just amazing. And it's really a pleasure to read, but kind of digging down and kind of doing the Cliff Notes version is kind of tough. Just got to be honest with you. And I have a background, like I have a degree in rhetorical analysis. And it was tough for me. But not a tough read per se, but just kind of tough digging at the root of what they're saying. So here's some of the stuff that's in the Africa culture. Cool stuff. Pyramids. You can see the jungles now. Look at that. That looks awesome. That just looks awesome. I have no clue what's going on here, but it looks badass, right? So that's it. That is it for the cultures, for the 7 cultures of Degenesis. I hope you enjoyed it. If you got any questions, throw them down in the chat. I'll do my best to answer. If you're watching this back, like I know Neil likes to do, then just throw it down in the comments section, and I'll get back to you, dude. I'll get back to you. You know I always do. I know something, my camera kind of seems to blur up sometimes, but that's what it is. So next time I'm going to be looking at the cults. Now, if I remember correctly, I think there was 13 different cults. So you got 7 cultures and you got 13 cults. And so I'm going to dive in and see how much information I can kind of pull out of here and tell you guys about these 13 cults that live in Degenesis. So Jesse says, seriously, the best one yet for me. Yeah, it's pretty neat, dude. It is. It's pretty darn neat. So yeah, I think that's about it from me tonight. I will see you guys on Friday. I hope you guys have an awesome night and tomorrow, and we see you all on Friday. We'll be back with some more Degenesis, and yeah, I can't wait, guys. We'll see you later. Bye.